Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the spotlight session titled Leading Sales Through the COVID-19 Crisis, Why the Industry's Historic Value Creation Model is Stumbling and How to Reinvent It. And it's a pleasure to introduce the stalwarts from the FMCG industry who are participating in this panel discussion. Ajay Khanna, CMO Amway India, Prasanna Rai, Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer, Wipro Consumer Care India, Santosh Hegde, Founder and CEO, SalesDiary, Sumit, Khandelwal, CEO, Xoxoday, Kamlesh, Karamchandani, Director Sales and Marketing, HyFun Foods, Vikasdeep, Katyal, Director Marketing, Kids Nutrition, Unilever. This session will be moderated by Rajat Wahi, Partner, Deloitte Consulting. Rajat, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Ivan. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for making it for this exciting session. Some technical challenges getting on, but I think we are all there. So again, it's an interesting session. We're going to talk about leading sales through the COVID-19 crisis, why the industry's historic value creation model is getting challenged and how to reinvent it. I've got obviously a high-powered panel here, people from across the industry, from direct selling, FMCG, to SalesDiary, etc. So I'll just, without taking much time, I'll just come to start with you, Ajay. If you can just do a short introduction, and then we can go to all the other panelists before we go into the questions.
Thank you, Rajat. So hi, I'm Ajay, and I head marketing for Amway India. I've been a veteran with Amway. I joined them in 1998, and I've been kind of managing marketing for them. And marketing has evolved between 1998 and now, and obviously the last 8 months have been like truly accelerated learning beyond whatever. So you could put 21 years and then you can put the last 1 year, which is much. Yeah, over to the next participant.
Thanks, Ajay. Yep, you're right, absolutely. This has been an interesting year in more ways than one. Prasanna, coming to you.
Yeah, hi. I'm Prasanna. I'm with Wipro Consumer. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer with Wipro, and I'm with Wipro Consumer now for 8 years. And my whole stints have been with FMCG or consumer durable, with consumer-facing marketing as my role and expertise. Specifically on the topic on COVID. It's actually accelerated a lot of stuff, like, for example, the use of digital in FMCG, which was always I always used to say it was a tick mark kind of an usage, but I think the first time where we are genuinely seeing that as a critical driver, both digital as well as e-commerce, that's one thing which has definitely changed. Also, the way FMCG companies respond to emergencies in terms of speed, in terms of cross-functional working, and in terms of war room kind of working. I think these were things that really kind of accelerated across FMCG companies, including Wipro, I would say. So that would be the context with which I would like to take this session forward with all of you, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Prasanna. Good to hear that, and absolutely, that's exactly what we are discussing. Santosh, I'll come to you now.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Santosh. I'm founder CEO of SalesDiary. When we started out, we had a very clear focus that even at that time in 2011, 2012, FMCG was one of the most not very tech savvy kind of industry. And with the kind of problems that exist, specifically with the distributed supply chain and the ever-changing the demand side of it, I mean, emerging like modern trade to e-commerce, and then even the direct selling from the B2B supply chain, which is emerging out recently. So we have been closely working on these topics and helping some of our partners really drive through this disruption whenever it happens, including the regulatory norms. What GST came itself was a disruption in itself. So we've been working very closely with some of the big companies and helping them through the technology adoptions.
Thanks, Santosh. Sumit, I'll come to you now.
Thanks, Wahi. Hi, I'm Sumit. I run this company called Xoxoday. Prior to starting this company, I worked in sales and marketing role with company Wipro Consumer Care. Prasanna is here. I worked in consumer in sales marketing function, and it obviously taught you a lot of things about what happens in the FMCG space. And was lucky, was kind of got into the space of tech, digital transformation, and what we do as a business is helping organization get through in the journey of digital transformation, about engaging with your customers, your partners, your channel, or your employees to keep them motivated and engaged so that they deliver better business results. It's been exciting times for us. I think one of the things which COVID has caught is all of us getting into a digital arena and started thinking or accelerating digital transformation. So interesting space and interesting things of what different companies are doing. I'd speak a bit more about it as we kind of go ahead on the discussion. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to work. Pleasure to interact with all of them over here.
Thank you so much. Thanks. And now coming to Kamlesh.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kamlesh Karamchandani. I'm one of the founder at HyFun Foods. I look after sales and marketing and supply chain for HyFun Foods, which is into manufacturing of frozen French fries and potato-based appetizers and snacks. Looking forward to interact with all of you, and I'm sure I would learn a lot from good experienced people like you, and I'll definitely share my experience over the last 5 years when we started. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Kamlesh. I'm coming now finally to Vikas. Vikas, over to you.
Hi everyone, and good afternoon. I am Vikasdeep Katyal. I lead marketing for kids nutrition with Unilever. Kids nutrition, I'm sure you would know some iconic brands like Horlicks and Boost are a part of this category which I lead. I have been with FMCG for the last 17 years now across functions and categories, both sales and marketing. And I think these are really exciting times to be a marketeer in FMCG, and really looking forward. And it's a pleasure for me to be a part of this group.
Thanks so much, everybody. And I think we'll just jump into it because I think obviously it's going to be a tight session with so many, of you with so much experience to bring forward. So Ajay, I'll start with you. Just from that perspective, what is the sort of business model changes you've seen in this, COVID time? Obviously, direct selling industry also, I'm sure, has got disrupted a lot. A lot of it was face-to-face communication. So I would say, I won't use the word, sort of value, looking at value destruction, etc. But what has been the marketing model and sales model changed for you? And maybe you talk from the marketing perspective. And how are companies like yours looking to overcome this, especially this with the lockdown, with a very, very prolonged lockdown?
Thanks so much, Rajat, for that question. And I think I would say COVID has provided a tremendous opportunity, I would say. So I think a lot of us might see the glass is half full or half empty. I would say the glass is half full. And it's kind of catapulted our vision. And I think this vision we started seeing about a couple of years back, where we said, can we take this and integrate high tech with that? So can we kind of, instead of making entrepreneurs who are kind of just meeting people one-on-one, face-to-face, can we kind of help these guys to kind of build profit around their passions, which could be around healthy living, which could be around cooking, which could be around beauty. And can we kind of really make socialpreneurs and leverage social commerce? And the biggest barrier which we were seeing was that the adoption of the digital technology and the resistance around that. And I can tell you that the last 8 months, we have worked with our entire entrepreneur force, which is about 550,000 people. And they've been far more open to kind of adopting this technology because there was no other way out. I think they were kind of thrown into a swimming pool where you have to kind of swim. And they've kind of really taken like a fish to water. And I can tell you that we have kind of really migrated from a 30% online business to a 70% online business. It has required tremendous effort from our side in terms of upping our game, because we were also not equipped. We were kind of traveling, we would do events, we would do the engagements, which are more offline. But just to kind of move all our training, all our engagement online and make it come so close to the offline reality, and kind of get our entire sales force to kind of adapt to that new reality has been, I think, a huge opportunity. Obviously, we see a lot of jobs being lost around us. We have seen pay cuts happening around us. We know gig economy is kind of coming. This thing that again presents a new opportunity for us. So how do we kind of take our opportunity and kind of represent and reorient and kind of give that as an option to all those people who are kind of looking for building a bigger, brighter, better, healthier tomorrow. So I think, and last but not the least, I think what's in, we call it, and immunity and nutrition is in. And luckily, we are in a sweet spot. We have a portfolio which is most relevant. 65% of our portfolio is around health supplements. And we have seen a demand. It's been a challenge actually to kind of catch up with that demand, to kind of meet that demand. But I can tell you how supply chains have worked, how distribution has worked. We had initially about 50,000 orders a month. Today we have 5 lakh orders. So how do you kind of service that? And there were obviously disruptions in between. But I think, as somebody else mentioned, that all the teams, almost like a war room, came together and kind of has fought this battle, and we seem to be on top of it.
Thanks so much, Ajay. I think that's fantastic. And I think if anything, we are seeing that across industry, technology adoption has been very, very quick, which was always a tick box and good thing to do. Everybody has got into that in a big way. And good to see that, obviously, that business is coming back for you as well. Vikas, coming to you, just moving from Amway to Unilever in terms of nutrition and children's nutrition, obviously, is a very, very key area. I'm sure that, that's a big focus for the company, especially during the lockdown. So just your thoughts on how have you seen the business, get disrupted, and how are you guys adapting to that?
Yeah, I think over the last 8 to 10 months, this has been a sort of a black swan event, not just for businesses, but I think overall society at a large. And the way business models will now shape up from here on will be very, very different, pretty much in the short to mid-term. So if I talk about FMCG, I think from a demand point of view, what we have seen is that consumers have become much more evaluative in terms of the brands that they buy. Brands which have very strong equity on trust and value for money are doing well. Health and hygiene is something that is and would continue to stay top of mind of consumers for some time to come. And I think hence brand marketeers who have shown the agility and kind of repurpose their plans, keeping these principles in mind, will do well in times to come. The second bit is from the supply side, I think both from a point of view of cost of manufacturing, as well as ensuring that our brands are distributed well to reach the shoppers, there has been a major disruption across businesses. So, two big actions which emerged for us particularly was one, to ensure that our brands are e-com fit, which essentially means designing for the channel. Now you see e-com as a channel is almost single-digit contribution to most businesses across the country in FMCG.
Yeah.
But I think now is the time to think channel out and build our pack and price architectures, which gives us a very strong chance to win in this channel. That was one. And secondly, from a manufacturing point of view, I think businesses which have had very lean and agile and less complex manufacturing models, they have done well. And this will continue to be a key ask from the leaders going forward. I think these 2-3 points in my mind are a key to build strong businesses from here on.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, so much, Vikas. It makes sense. Obviously, health, nutrition, trusted brands. These are the same messaging we are hearing across all the consumer conversations we are having, and it's been actually a good time for brands that have spent time in the last few years building their capability, connecting with consumers. And this is a great time to reconnect again, because brands which have been available, which have made sure product is on shelf, which have been communicating other brands that are going to win. Now, today's consumer is very promiscuous. Now, whether this is very lasting or not, we don't know. But at least at this stage, at least for the next 1 year, you can see a good transition on that. Santosh, coming to you, just from a perspective of, how have you seen the business change, and how some of the big challenges that you guys have faced in terms of the overall sort of sales and delivery models and marketing models?
Yeah, so particularly in this particular situation of COVID, right? I mean, things have changed drastically, and people have really opened up their mind to newer ways of doing things. And companies whom we used to earlier approach with some new ideas, it used to take really months to even materialize and to take it to implementation. But now what I see is that good reception of good ideas, right? And if you have a smarter implementation plan, things happening right away, and that sort of is encouraging companies like us to really build quality solutions, which sort of marginalizes the inefficacies what used to be there in the industry. Because I remember when we started with a very clear idea is that maybe distribution is can be sort of completely taken out and we can provide a direct connectivity. But then that was not the real thing to do. Rather, it was to empower each and every channel partner in the right sense to deliver them with the right quality, right? So when we started this, when the pandemic hit, several partners of us approached us to saying, my salespeople cannot really go on the ground. It's not very safe. It's even if they go, probably we'll have to figure out what's the best, way of going, because there are some companies who said, I would want to alternate the schedule what I'm supposed to be following, right? So with that, within the first lockdown getting over, we could actually launch a new platform for engaging directly with retailers in a more of an offline going online kind of a scenario, and then very exclusively in a very closed loop network, companies could reach out to their retailers, and then the entire demand that came out of the top 10 cities were being supplied by the same old distribution channel what they had, right? But in a much more efficient way. So we could see that within a couple of months, the things got drastically changed and people adopted. So company, as I think Vikas has pointed out, companies who are really value and then have the thought process at back of their mind, and then have the team, whether it's a technology partner or the in-house team who is capable to deliver that transformation at the need of the hour. I think that's going to be the key for all the category leaders to really embark on this opportunity and take the new digital transformation ahead.
Thanks, Santosh. Makes sense, yeah. And I think that's been one of the key things that even we've seen as a company, that the people are willing to talk about a lot more innovative ideas. I'm not sure if everything is implementable, and they also have so many other challenges that they are not that keen to bring in change. Prasanna, coming to you, just because Wipro Consumer is a large player, it'll be good to get a sense from you as well in terms of how you are seeing it change from an overall sort of from a marketing perspective. How are you finding it difficult, changing to reach consumers? What's some of the things? Obviously, social media, messaging, etc., becoming very, very popular. Just talk a bit briefly about how you have seen the big change there in terms of the marketing.
Sure. I think the other panelists have touched upon the common themes, which is about repurposing your plans, looking at digital and e-com in a big way. In that process, what we had experienced was there were some initiatives in the health and hygiene space which we had planned 1 year down the line. We had expedited it, and we had launched 2 brands in the personal hygiene space with the brand called Hygienix, and in a surface hygiene space called Max Clean. Interestingly, there is a huge learning curve post-COVID in this regard, because let me put it in context. What has happened is, because of the pandemic, consumers trusting the bigger brands, the trusted brands, has really enhanced much more. People don't want to experiment in the stage of a pandemic. So the task for a new brand launch becomes that much more difficult, because you got your product in place, but when you one is the retail presence becomes a big question mark, because your sales team is not able to influence the retailer the way you would like to, or which used to do it pre-pandemic era, because he's not ready to interact. Visibility at the store does not make sense, because consumers are not visiting the stores as much, or even if they visit, they're not ready to spend much time. They're in a hurry to go back. So a lot of things have changed in the way marketers look at new brand launches and how they can influence consumers. So now it's a question of your marketing, messaging, and communication, especially for new brands which have a handicap on trust because they are a new brand. The messaging and the kind of messaging and the clutter breaking advertisement becomes extremely important, extremely much more important than what it was, because you have taken out visibility at the store out of the picture. You've taken out retailer recommendation and retailer influence out of the picture, right? So that becomes extremely difficult to establish your brand. Just to illustrate, distribution of a new launch was a given for us because we had the infrastructure. But when we launched these two brands, we found that even getting the basic distribution width of outlets was a huge challenge. So it has just forced us to rethink the model of new launch totally. I think that's something which I wanted to highlight, because that's something which we have experienced post-pandemic and still not found solutions for it. I think
fantastic,
that's one
fantastic
thing which we're learning, but we're still not. So that
and
is
it's
something
actually
which I want.
contrary to what I would have thought. I would have thought that strong brands with distribution would have still managed to get product on shelf. But that's very interesting, and I'll come back to you on the real challenges you faced and how you're overcoming that. So Kamlesh, coming to you, talk a bit about how you are seeing it change for your business, and how you as as a marketing director of HyFun, HyFun Foods have sort of adapted that, given that at-home consumption has gone up a lot. So I'm sure your business must be doing quite well from that perspective. Just talk a bit about the marketing challenges as well.
Sure, Rajat, thank you. So, yeah, you rightly said the businesses of the food players or the companies who are directly into retail is doing well. But unfortunately, HyFun as a brand, we are not into retail. We are only present into food service and QSR.
Oh, wow.
But this gave us an opportunity. This time gave us an opportunity to launch our brand into retail, which we have done successfully 3 months back. So now we are penetrating into retail. That is one way of marketing or promoting and increasing the sales. And also the challenges were definitely into HoReCa business, because the restaurants, the hotel industries are badly affected. Still, that has been tumbling. But we have taken up retail as a different alternative channel to penetrate. And of course, we have increased our focus on markets. So we have been doing well so far, to be honest with you, just because of retail and export markets. So this is the strategy we have adopted after this COVID.
Yeah, so you guys must be the most impacted out of this whole group, right? Because you had to read
So
your entire business model.
On the other side of the story, I would say.
Wow, amazing. So that'll be good to hear some of the challenges you guys have faced. So Sumit, coming to you in terms of how you have seen the business change since you are from the industry and you worked obviously with Wipro in the past. Talk a bit about some of the things that you have seen change and how you guys are coping with that. Can't hear you, Sumit. Huh?
Yeah. I think the best part of this pandemic has been is brought all of us in the same page at the first time. It's no more that you have an experience, and based on that experience, I think this is the best way to do so. Brands, sales heads, marketers have all started thinking innovation, and that's something which has really been helpful. It's not that because I have so much of experience, I guide this and this would work for that. So that's one part of it. Second, the first thing which it happened was cost cutting, right? Brands were questioned, marketers were questioned for every money which is getting spent. And hence it was getting important that there's a way to measure the ROI, and tools and techniques were being used that how you are able to measure ROI for any marketing spends which is happening. Second, the channels were getting changed, which means it's no more all about retailers. It's about the big baskets, the Amazon Primes of the world, who would really be the ones who would be the biggest channel for you to kind of push it. Now, what it also did, it also started building a lot of pressure about the demands from these partners. And how do you build your own D2H network or direct-to-home network, which can help you win in this race? Third, you work on large sales team, right? The sales team have to be motivated. They are not allowed to go into the market. They have a component which is about their travel expenses, and they wanted to see that how that's a big bhatta, and all those are a kind of revenue earning for the sales guys. Now, how do you keep these guys motivated in this network? The sales had a lot of pressure because they don't have a way to kind of reach out to the retailers and sell it. So the entire thought of the transformation started with the ways you are communicating with them. So tools which are really helping in communicating with the sales, the marketing network. Second, ways where you are able to do a lot of these in a very fast format with a lot of analytics. So our tools which are really helping organization, both the sales heads and the marketing heads, really started getting a lot of interest and adoption, right? But what is also brought in was that the whole thought about doing that change after 3 years or 5 years has started getting a lot of demand today in the market, and that's actually helped us grow a lot. So a lot of these CEOs and CMOs who were not opening doors, they kind of started coming out saying, how can I really solve that in the fastest format, right? The thought of having it as a spends versus finding it as a best investment to do. So we've seen a good kind of good adoption and a lot of innovative ways in which brands as well as the marketing and the sales head have been looking at the whole journey in the last 2-3 quarters.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So some positive stories from the COVID point. So it's not all bad, as bad as the overall scenario may be. Ajay, coming back to you, just talk a bit about 3-4 of the top challenges you have faced in your direct selling world, and just how are you guys coping with that? I'm sure communication, virtualization, all of that must be a big challenge. So talk a bit about that.
So bang on. I think you brought it bang on. I think being a high touch business, suddenly you are kind of say, okay, you can't move, you can't meet people, you have to be social distance. So it was a completely a new real. I would say a completely new reality. And I think we have really kind of coped with it well, because I guess all of us got together and we said, okay, we can see it as a disadvantage or we can see it as an advantage, because as I told you that our vision was to kind of move everything to a social commerce and help people build their communities. So we kind of launched this program called Creators, where we are taking a 550,000 distributor ABO force and saying, okay, can we kind of equip them, train them to kind of build their online communities and their passions. So it kind of, at least we reset ourselves. We have already done 15,000 sessions on Zoom across various geographies with various people. We are kind of telling them how they can build their personas. We are telling them how they can shoot. And I think it was a learning for me as well. I've got my entire marketing team who's going through a digital marketing course with Micah. The entire 53 member team, irrespective of what role they're doing, because I think that's the reality tomorrow. And though we all know in bits and pieces, I think it becomes important that all of us are on the same page there. The other, I think, biggest, I would say, while it was an opportunity right now, and we saw for health and immunity products, there was a 6x, 7x demand. So we were trying to cope up with that demand. We also realized that we need to have a portfolio which is future ready, and this is something which is going to stay. And can we kind of do something? And right now with supplementation, one of the barriers is that pills are probably not the best format which your younger audiences would be looking at. And there's obviously a huge traction towards the traditional herbs or the Ayurveda range. So those two opportunities we have specced out. We have tied up with ITC. Sanjay was in one of the sessions, I think the previous sessions there. Sanjay and we kind of got together and we said, okay, can we kind of get immunity products which are in food formats, fortified food formats to the marketplace? And I think that's one of the biggest strategic partnership which two large brands in India with unique channels have come together. And you will see a lot more kind of coming that way. Outside that, we are also looking at an Ayurveda partnership where we accelerate Ayurveda based products, because there's a growing belief around Ayurveda, and I do see in the next 6 to 12 months launching a bigger range which is kind of catering to the youth and this new reality of, yes, you have to be proactive about health rather than reactive. So
fantastic, Ajay. Lots of innovation by you guys, not just adapting, but also product. Good to hear about Ayurveda and collaborating with other businesses to bring in, health products. Clearly, that's top of mind for consumers. So, Vikas, I'll come to you. Top 3 or 4 challenges that you faced in your business. I mean, children's nutrition obviously was top of mind for a lot of parents as kids were home all the time, not eating at school, and I'm sure that must be a good time to reconnect with a lot of consumers. So, some of the challenges you faced as a marketer in terms of getting to them, communicating, especially that you can't do demos and can't touch and get people to touch and feel products. Some thoughts around that. Did you guys use a lot of tech, AR, VR? We keep hearing about these innovative technologies. Some thoughts on that?
I think, as rightly pointed out, this has been a true test of leadership for most of us here. And I think I would not call it as challenges, but there were 3, 4 priorities that we had on the business. I think the first and foremost was to ensure the well-being of our teams. So it was really critical for us to ensure that our teams and their families are safe and secure in their homes during this time. It was also important to see that they are well connected, engaged, and they are really excited about the kind of work that they are doing. This was priority 1 in our mind. The second was around that given the new situation, how as a team we are agile enough to repurpose our plans across the value chain. So about what and how do we talk to our consumers, the go-to-market principles that we had, or the supply chain efficiencies that we were used to working on. How do we remodel each of these, which gives us a strong chance to succeed in the new normal? That was second. The third was about that we continued to invest behind our brands and kept on strengthening the equity despite having such strong headwinds on the business. Now, this ensured that we stayed salient in the minds of our consumers. That was very, very important for us. I think last but not the least, the priority also was that how do we keep a very close eye on the new normal that will emerge post the pandemic is over. And do we have a business model which gives us a strong chance to handle and grow in the new environment? I think these were the 3, 4 big priorities that we had in the business of the last 10 months or so.
Thanks, Vikas. I think all very relevant. Keeps investing ahead of the curve. Obviously sales must have been impacted, but this is also a good time to use that opportunity to talk to consumers. All the big brands, whether it was your brands, Amul, Amway, we saw everybody increasing their spends, trying to talk more and more to customers. So I'll come to Prasanna. Obviously, I'm sure you guys must have faced similar challenges to what Vikas and Ajay have talked about. So Prasanna, just talk briefly about some of the things you were mentioning in terms of communicating, repurposing the brand, repurposing the business. Talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So the points mentioned by the other 2 panelists was relevant for us also. One particular aspect which I would like to add on is relating to consumer understanding and how consumer perceptions about various categories and brands have changed, right? With the pandemic, there are a lot of things which was pre-pandemic. For example, in a simple way, the awareness about something called a virus itself is increased so much. I'm just illustrating earlier it used to be germs. People used to generally talk about anti-germ and anti-bac. And virus was not a term which people knew about. Today, like everybody is just talking virus. So I'm saying consumer perception about a lot of categories, a lot of things around them, how they view the messaging by different brands has completely changed. And for brand managers, typically meeting up with consumers in their homes and talking to them about their perceptions was part of the job. Today, that also has become a question mark. Now, everything has moved on to video calls. So now we are doing consumer connects with consumers on video calls, right? Now, getting used to that process, both from the marketer side as well as from consumer being comfortable talking on the video call, is itself a big change in the behavior, right? So people need to interact in a way the consumer comfortable, and pick up insights is a big challenge, and then use those insights in the communication messaging, which finally needs to be in a COVID context. For example, in a brand like Santoor, where historically we've been, highlighting beauty and younger looking skin in a fun and, the woman in a very high-spirited, enjoying herself kind of mode. Now we have to rethink, saying in COVID context, is this kind of a setting the right setting for a consumer to feel empathy with the woman? I don't know. So do we need to rethink the messaging? That's a very, very big challenge in my mind, because people's perception about what they are expecting from brands, what they're expecting from advertising has completely changed. And I think we are still in the process of understanding that reality. And I don't think we've got there yet. I think it will be a continuous process.
And Prasanna, you talked briefly about some of the challenges you faced on trying to get product on shelf, getting retailers to accept. I mean, just briefly talk about, did you guys manage to overcome that? What are one or two things you guys did for that?
Right. So I was talking about, it's easier to place the trusted brands. So the brands which have been there for many years and built an equity for itself, it's okay, because retailers want those products, consumers trust those brands, they want it. But new products has been a challenge.
New products, even by
what we've done is
well-known,
we've added on, instead of salesmen just going up. Yeah. So there is a relationship of the company, there is a relationship of the salespeople, but in spite of that, the retailer says, I don't want to stock brands. I'm not sure whether the consumers will ask for it, because he is foreseeing a demand issue from the consumers, because consumers don't come to his shop today. They don't see the new brand. And so you need to be advertising first. So you need to reach out to the consumer first, either through the digital route or to the TV route, and then route it differently. So what we have done is two fundamental changes that we have done. Earlier, we used to wait for the distribution of the new product to be there in place before we started advertising. Now we said that it's not going to happen. First, advertise so that distribution can also happen. So there is a wastage element there, which historically in pre-pandemic time, we would have called it wastage. But today there is no option. You have to advertise, create demand so that the retailer will start keeping the brand. So that's something which we have started learning. And this we have started learning after going through some problems. Similarly, from a salesman's perspective also. Yeah, just one more point is that how does he prioritize? How does he prioritize? What does he go and sell to the retailer? He is not able to present all the brands in the range to sell. So we need to prioritize certain brands in certain weeks when the salesman goes to the outlet. So that's another thing which we had to adapt. And, that's one of the things which we have faced as a challenge and trying to adapt and move forward.
Good, great stuff here. Very good learnings, I'm sure, for a lot of the people who are listening in, because I'm sure everybody is facing. You just assume that it's a well-known brand, be able to launch a new product, especially in hygiene and, thing is cleansing, but even there's pushback. Santosh, coming to you, just talk a bit about some of the things you faced in terms of the top two or three challenges you faced in the business, and how did you guys overcome that, especially in such a tight cycle and not being able to meet clients face to face?
So things have not changed much for us from an operation point of it, at least the internal operation point of it. In fact, it has been a blessing in disguise, our team, because the team, as they believe what they do, right, and as long as they're spending time with their family and they have a clear focus on delivering value to the customer, I think it's given us a lot amount of rooms, and I think we'll continue to work from in this work from home situations. Even if to an extent the pandemic is near to get over, or we don't see at least another 3 to 4 months that we are getting back to office. So that has actually helped us in a way rather than being a challenge. We've been probably seen more face to face in this time than could ever see it before, because now we can do a video call. But even earlier, nobody would wanted to do a video call, right? Everybody wanted in-person presence to be done. Yeah, so now we can actually meet more people and do more work. So, that being said, I think my experience in the last 5-6 months has been really eye-opening in many aspects, because I do work with multiple FMCG sectors, from fresh foods to ready S1 to essential goods to non-essential goods, right? So a couple of things that what we have learned is that the efficiency in which you want to operate as an FMCG company is at most important, right? And be able to translate what the management level wants to transmit at the managers level or the ground staff level. Ground staff level even still a little lesser because mid-managers sort of have a way to communicate to them. But you have data, you have all sort of data because almost all companies have got some sort of automation in place, whether it's a little bit outdated or with a transactional system in place. They have all the data, but then nobody knows how to really interpret the data in an actionable way for the mid managers, because that's crucial. Even if I know what to do at the boardroom and I may apply a strategy, but be able to transmit down at the mid manager level and be able to sort of in a very distributed manner, because what strategy that I want to apply in Bangalore might not really be the strategy that what I want to apply in Bhubaneswar. Right?
Sure.
So, and you won't be able to sit and dictate them over from a Zoom call or a video call all in one shot. So the challenge for us from last few months that we've been working on is how we can automate the decision-making abilities or provide the recommendation platforms for the mid managers with the insights of the factors that is being keyed in by your strategist at the or the marketing level. So, for example, if I want to decide to target 10% of my key outlet as a must that for this month, even though it's under pandemic, right? How I have to communicate to him or a ground level person that only these are the people that I want you to really go and sell or pursue the sales. So those kind of challenges, I think, were one of the biggest that our team is working on, and so far we have been really seeing good results coming out of this exercise.
Thanks.
I think it's good for the future as well.
Thanks, sir. Just we are running out of time, so I'm going to come to Kamlesh now and talk a bit about how did you guys manage to overcome this challenge of setting up almost a new business, going direct to moving from B2B to B2C. Just briefly, just talk about that, and what are the 2 or 3 things you guys did to overcome that?
Right. So, we were strongly present into B2B vertical. So we had been across the country. So we took this, a challenge to ask them to do the retail business also. So it took us time because, getting into retail, it's supply chain, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And also, motivating team to transfer one vertical to other vertical is not easy. So we did that. We placed the products into few cities to start with. And also we are now targeting the online marketplaces because we see that e-commerce has really jumped up. So, and also we are changing our communications because now we believe that the decision maker or the target audience is not the housewife or working or a mother, but now also, the millennials or the male boys are also the decision makers sitting at home. They browse online marketplaces. So it is a challenge and we are working towards that still. We have just entered retail and it will definitely help us to penetrate as we move forward.
Fantastic, Kamlesh. Good luck. Challenging times, but I'm sure as things open up, you already have that other business. This will give you a chance into a new business, which you would have never done in the past, right? Sumit, I'm going to come to you last but not the least, and then we'll get a bit of last words from everybody. So just talk briefly about how you guys have seen it change and what is it that you have done to drive some of the changes in the business here.
So I think, So we have been listening to what the organizations have been struggling with, and have been adapting our business and our solutions to match the requirements. To give a simple example, with pandemic, there's a lot of pressure around cash, around how the disbursement of incentive happens. There was no paper. Gone are the days where you kind of get all the incentive structures from the channel partners, dealers. There's a finance guy who looks at it, scans it, etc., etc. So we said, how can we reduce it? Because the more money you have it to the distributor, to the retailer, the more they will have the capability to buy the stock. And companies who are able to do that very fast in a very seamless format would be the one who would be able to get larger share of the orders coming in, right? So those are places where, so we built up the model where the incentive calculation engine disbursement engine makes it very powerful and very instant to happen. Second, brands were not able to, you don't have a salesman who's going on the field, right, and communicating, this is the reason, what's the reason for somebody to have it, right? So is there a way that the screen time which the retailers, the distributors are looking at, is there a way for them, the brands, to communicate it very seamlessly? Now that is where you build up the tools to really enable brands to reach out to handle the queries of the trade, of the partners, and then make it very easy for you to sell any new product or new offering. And the last one, for marketers, when they're looking at understanding that people are more hooked towards the mobile screen, is there a way that brands can engage a lot more often by doing multiple initiatives on consumer engagement in the places where your customers are, right? So finding incentive models for a customer to play a game or engage with the brand directly are where we invested and built tools for the brands to use it, right? So I think overall it's been really meaningful for us as in to helping brands in the whole digital transformation and have been able to give high results for companies who have been associated with us.
Thanks, Sumit. So just last words from everybody. Sorry, this is a very engaging discussion, and I'm sure we haven't been able to get through only half of our questions. But Ajay, coming to you, are these changes permanent, or you think we'll go back to the old ways? And I'll get back to everybody on that. Permanent or not permanent? What is your thoughts?
I would say part of them permanent, but not all of them. Some of them will kind of fall back in the normal ways, and probably they'll bounce back even stronger. But yeah, some of that will kind of stay. And for me, immunity and nutrition and proactive health and cure before care are there to stay.
And tech enablement as well, I'm sure, right?
Tech enablement, yes, yeah.
Vikas, coming to you, permanent, not permanent?
I would not say
the good old ways of working after this.
Yeah, no, so I would not say it's permanent, but I think as marketeers, what has really happened, which is continue to stay for some time a bit, is that, if you look at the continuum of various categories, having essential categories on one side of the spectrum and discretionary categories on the other side of the spectrum. So a lot of categories in the last 8 to 10 months have moved big time on this continuum. So categories like home and personal hygiene have moved significantly towards being essentials. And there are some categories like skincare or some premium segments, premium parts of few categories have moved more towards discretionary. So I think this change in the worldview of consumers about these categories is going to stay for some time. And this will have a significant impact on the business models. The second bit with which I started was, that consumers will continue to look for trust and value for money. So my sense is that brands which are today small in their respective categories, their journeys back to normalcy will be slower, is my sense.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sumit, quickly, your view, permanent, not permanent? I'm sure you would want it to be more permanent, but...
No. So I think the digital transformation is something which would be permanent. And I think taking the cues from what Ajay and Vikas just mentioned, I think the focus towards health, hygiene, and trustworthy brands would be something which would really stay long. Tough for brands which are not really falling in that bucket.
Thank you. And Prasanna, coming to you, permanent, not permanent?
Yeah. I think I'm also aligned with all others. It's some of them are going to be there for some time, and like Vikas mentioned, the continuum is going to be there. How close they are going to come, like hygiene and health, are definitely going to be an important part of every organization's or brand portfolio. It would make an important part of it. That is one. Second is FMCG marketers getting used to digital e-commerce in a much more serious way is going to be a permanent one.
Thanks, Prasanna. Santosh, your thoughts, permanent, not permanent?
I go with the same what Ajay said. So basically, the tech things is going to be more permanent, and I think it's going to be much better than what it is now. It's going to be more accelerating in a very unimaginable way, and we are hoping for it.
Thank you. And Kamlesh, coming to you, last word.
Yeah, a few things will be definitely permanent. Like what we are offering as new products at a lower cost, economic products with good taste, that will be permanent. Now people will are getting good products at cheaper prices. So that will definitely be permanent. And tech and hygiene will be permanent for sure.
Thank you, guys. I'm sorry there's less time. There's so much to talk about, and I think this is a very, very exciting discussion. But do stay in touch, and good luck to everybody with all your new initiatives. As consumers, we always look for.
Thanks, Rajat. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.